you look at your life, you look at the arc of your life, and I think Steve Jobs said this, and you can't tell where the points are taking you. You can only tell looking back. And so, what happens is, you fast forward a little bit, and what happened is I thought becoming an achiever would overcome those things, right? So I had this kind of this weight that I carried with me, and growing up in sort of I grew up on this Baltimore City line, and it was kind of a rough area, and my sister had slipped into heroin addiction, and so it was a tough upbringing, really. Although there were some great points too. I don't want to make it sound like it was all terrible, but I started wanting to check boxes. I thought, if I could just work hard enough, and if I could just make enough money, that all of the bad things that happened to me in my life, I would be able to outwork that. And so I went to law school, and I did really, really well. I graduated sort of top of my class. I got the award for most outstanding graduate. I was the commencement speaker at University of Baltimore. And then I went to work for a big white shoe law firm here in Miami, which Miami was so amazing for me. And even in that law firm, when it's funny how you deal with bullies in life. And then I was working for the defense side, and there were some people there, really brilliant people, but there were still bullies in that environment. And so, but I was checking boxes. I had the white shoe job. I had a kid. I got married, and which brings me to the story that you're talking about. When you're chasing the wrong things for the wrong reason, right? Or you're just trying to check boxes and you don't really understand, what your purpose is and who you really serve, then you can get a whole lot together in your life, but really not have anything. It can go away like that. And so, which is what you were talking about. So, you fast forward till I was probably my late 30s, and I had left that big firm, and I decided to start my own firm because I learned lessons there too, saying, what, I can do this. I had some sales experience, and lawyers don't really know how to get clients, so I'm gonna try my hat at it. And so, and I brought in some business partners. I'd started the firm myself, and we'd built it up over some years, and then it was really a tough situation where, as I said, my sister had a heroin addiction, and she was 34 at this point, and she was diagnosed with leukemia, which ultimately took her life. And then a year after that, my father was diagnosed with terminal leukemia as well, and he died a year later after that. And I mean, it's like, you talk about a perfect storm. My ex-wife moved to Greece to take care of her father, who had a stroke, and took my 2-year-old daughter with her. And so that my marriage had fallen apart. She ended up moving in with somebody in Greece. And then, of course, all of this bad stuff was happening. And, I get divorced. My business is falling apart. And so I ended up, sleeping on a couch, basically. And thank God I got my daughter back from my ex-wife in Greece. And I was able to live with her. And I could only afford a bed for her, right? She was upstairs and sleeping in the bed. And I slept on this IKEA fold-out couch for like a year. And I had my suits. I kept my suits, and I had my car, and I had a little fold-out table to eat on the dining room with, and I still had my firm, but it just had hit the rocks. And so that's really where there was a strong stepping off point at that moment where my life changed, because I could have just stayed on the couch. I mean, if outside in the world, I had everything, right? You check all the boxes. You look inside my apartment, it's a total disaster, right? And so there was a real stepping off point there that was just a powerful transformation that I went through.